In the 1980s, Traci Lords was the most sought-after genre film star in the world, appearing in more than 75 mature films, gracing the pages of magazines and becoming a fantasy for an audience of millions. But beneath the glossy magazine shoots and grainy, overused VHS tapes was a truth that would send shock waves through the entire film industry. This is the story of the teenager behind the controversy, and a look at some of her work during the peak of the 1980s. Born Nora Louise Kuzma on May 7, 1968 in the Rust Belt town of Steubenville, Ohio, Lords came from a fractured working-class family. Her father was a steel worker and a violent alcoholic. Her mother divorced him and struggled to raise Lords and her 3 sisters. When Traci was 12, the family moved to Rundo Beach, California, where the dysfunction continued. Her mother's boyfriend, Roger Hayes, became a sinister figure in Traci's early life. She would later detail the trauma he caused in a published memoir. A teenage boyfriend also took advantage of her when she was only 15, an experience she described as the most traumatizing thing in her life. Lords would later say, "My damage drove me into the industry. I had all of this stuff. I was messed up and I was angry. That anger became fuel, a driving force behind a persona that would both dominate and then turn upside down an entire multi-million-dollar industry." In her mid-teens and keen to earn money, she started babysitting for a woman who helped her obtain a forged ID. Using the name Christy Elizabeth Nussman and a fake birth certificate, she obtained a new identity. On paper, she was 20. In reality, she was still a high school dropout. In February 1984, she walked into the World Modeling Talent Agency, the notorious pipeline into the LA film scene run by Jim South. Hayes pretended to be her stepfather and took her to her first interview. No one asked too many questions. With her new ID, she was cleared to work within genre films, all under what producers and directors believed was legally legitimate. She chose the name Traci Lords. Traci because it was an all-American girl name, the kind of name she associated with the confident, popular girls at school that she wanted to be. Lords was inspired by Jack Lord, star of the original Hawaii 5 TV series. She reportedly liked how strong and classy the name sounded. Her first film appearance came in What Gets Me Hot in 1984, alongside Helgaven as her mother. Her participation was illegal under the laws in force in the United States. However, at the time of the release, her true age was still unknown. For audiences, she was a fantasy dream in pigtails, and that fantasy sold a huge amount of videotapes. Between 1984 and 1986, Lords became the biggest name in mature film. She starred in a string of high-profile hits and was reportedly earning $1,000 a day. In late 1985, just shy of her 17th birthday, and as her fame continued to skyrocket, she launched the Traci Lords Company with her boyfriend-manager Stuart Dell, aka Stephen Cartier, partnering with Vantage International to produce and star in her own content. In March 1986, the first TLC feature was released, Traci Takes Tokyo, shot in Japan around Christmas '85. It was a surreal cultural mashup but performed well with audiences. Next came a film based on the popular Eddie Murphy movie. Not exactly subtle, but that wasn't the point. It was glossy, ridiculous, and sold by the crate load. The third TLC feature, Screamer, never made it to release because her secret was about to blow. In May 1986, shortly after her 18th birthday, federal authorities received credible information that Lords had been underage during her entire acting career. On July 10, 1986, the LAPD raided her home and the offices of multiple adult studios and agencies. Video stores across the country pulled Lords' film from their shelves overnight to avoid prosecution. Any movie shot before her 18th birthday became contraband. Only one title out of her entire body of work up until that point, Traci I Love You, filmed in France 2 days after she turned 18, could legally be sold. The fallout cost the adult industry millions of dollars and sparked a wave of arrests, lawsuits, and political scrutiny. Some avoided prison successfully, arguing that they had no way of knowing Lords was underage due to the extensive documentation she had supplied. While most of Lords' movies were permanently removed from distribution in the United States, several were re-edited to remove her scenes. In a few cases, new footage was filmed with a different actress playing her part. This can be seen in a later release of Talk to Me Part 3, which was re-edited with Lisa DeLeo replacing her in reshot scenes. Lords was never charged. She was treated as a victim, not a perpetrator, a girl exploited by a system that failed to protect her. Still, many in the industry felt betrayed, claiming she had been calculating, not naive. They say she knew exactly what she was doing all along. After disappearing from the public eye for a short time after the proceedings, Traci Lords re-emerged in the Hollywood mainstream, no less. She met the director Jim Wowski, who was directing the remake of Roger Corman's 1957 sci-fi classic, Not of This Earth. Aware of the free marketing of her being in the movie, he immediately cast Lords as the lead. However, Lords' big mainstream break came in 1990 when she landed a role in John Waters' Crybaby, starring alongside Johnny Depp. Her portrayal of the rebellious teenager Wanda Woodward established her as a legitimate actress. She would go on to act in many other mainstream films and forge a successful career in TV, too. In fact, her career has continued on a successful trajectory into the new millennium and onto the present day. However, since this is a channel about retro glamour, all of this goes beyond the scope of what I'm here to talk about. Back in the day, though, Traci took the industry by storm. Not only for her screen impact and the features she appeared in, but also in the fallout her misrepresentation caused. She was the young girl who told America a truth it didn't want to hear. That fantasy has consequences, and sometimes it's built on lies.